Yeah, I thought it said that earlier.
Yeah, anyway, let's just make sure, so.
So it's something we're still sort of working on, is this record function. Keith's been working with Kylie, who's going to be setting up something on YouTube to move the recordings to YouTube so people can view them whenever they have time or desire to do so. And it's suggested that we'll just put a link on the town website to the YouTube channel. So rather than on each page for each board that's using it, just to have it centrally located.
It has caused a little glitch because when people log in to pull the recordings down remotely, it logs it out from here. And so what we're going to need to do is to change the login email address for both the town hall and here to one where we can have a forwarding or an alias on there, so 2 or 3 people get the code instead of just one. Otherwise, we have to call up Bill.
Yeah, who's hosting the email? Is it Google using Gmail or what's?
No,
Yeah.
it's Bill's personal. He's got 2 email addresses currently. So we're changing it to a template.org email address, which we can control.
Yeah, okay, that's where I was gonna go.
Right.
Set up a Google group if it's Google, or a Yahoo group if it's Yahoo, or pick your poison, was basically where I was gonna go. But
Yeah. So I actually, at the conference, the NHMA conference, there was a representative from Google who was there, and that's not it. It's probably in my other bag. I told him what we were trying to do, and I said, we're still figuring it out, and I'm not the person to talk to about it, but he did give me his card and said you could call for. That's it.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Call if you have questions. He may try to sell you something. I said we weren't looking for anything beyond just this at this moment.
What do they do?
It's unclear. It was unclear to me.
It's just got a title of state and local government.
Yeah, so I think that's what I said. I think they have products that they were selling, but the guy that I talked to was just covering the booth. That guy was not there, but he said, here's his card. You can call him with your questions, tell him what you're trying to do, and he can point you in a direction. And I said, we'd like to move it to YouTube. And he said, oh, that's a Google product. So we can definitely help you with that.
Yeah, because he's got a google.com email address. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so I don't know if it'll be helpful or not, but I just said, I don't understand all the problems. You should talk to somebody who can speak the same language. And I just said, this is what we're trying to do. And
I know somebody that's recorded Zoom sessions, push them up.
yeah.
If you're desperate, give me a call.
Bill
Yeah.
came across a really neat app that actually does it automatically, which is what we're looking for as well. So yeah, whatever you've got, send it in.
I just have a person.
Not person. No, this was a neat little app.
Yeah.
Whereas you just give your links in and it just does it automatically.
Yeah, no, I know somebody that used to record stuff via Zoom meetings and then push them to YouTube. So if you get stuck, give me a call and I'll try to hook you up.
That's great. Do we know, I know we've asked, or the select board has asked for boards or committees to sort of track how many people are using it. Have you seen any numbers, Keith? I mean, we had 5 at the planning board.
There's 4 additional, because
One is the host, right? Right. And I know there was at the budget advisory, there were a couple of people that were zooming in. I don't know about the select board. I think there's been a few at each of those meetings too. And I think those are the only boards or committees that are using it at this point. You haven't helped anybody else with it, right, Keith? Yeah, Concom had used the microphones and well, maybe they didn't even use the microphones. They used the presentation feature, the projector and the.
You might find as snow goes up, so there's remote access.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah, Gary seemed to have a good understanding.
Gary did, Gail did as well. I think, well, she said she did.
Yeah,
We don't know.
No, but she's relying on having to back up.
Yeah, but she does 2 other committees as well, and I don't think they've met yet, so I don't know if they've used it. Yeah.
Rob Wills has a request to get together with you to go over the.
Great.
Yeah, tell them Tuesdays, Thursdays and Fridays, pretty much any time.
Okay. I'll
Just
pass it
let me
along.
know.
So is there anything else on the AV equipment we need to talk about? Has anybody heard any feedback about it? No. Okay. Broadband update?
Yeah, so the progress continues. Eversource was able to install a couple of new poles, but then they ran into ledge. And so they were supposed to come back starting this week to take care of that and install the rest of the poles. I have not heard any update this week. Bill Azell did say there were Fidium trucks out by his house doing install, which I'm curious about that. I do know, I finally got Fidium to go out to Stonegate and evaluate what's going on there because Steve Concordia has been saying, you know, the conduit is full. And sure enough, it is full. So the Fidium's gonna have to put new conduit down, and that's gonna happen in the spring. It has to be approved by the homeowners association
Oh, okay.
there. And just with the timing, and the ground isn't frozen yet, but I think by the time it got approved and everything, it's just,
Right.
they decided to wait till the spring. So that will be a holdup to finish the project.
What else
But-
was it you said was done? No Stonegate and Bill, you said somewhere else they'd installed some poles.
So just the north side of town that I don't know exactly where, but Eversource has to replace some poles. I think it's out by Converse Road. Is that
Yeah.
right, Bill?
They've set 3 new poles total.
Okay,
They've done nothing this week at all.
Okay.
And nobody's been there on the road this week.
okay,
Which are the-
Possibly Converse Road,
Oh, okay.
possibly they'll show up tomorrow.
okay.
The tedious nonsense, my neighbor, who has a conduit that runs from the pole to her house, which is a long conduit,
Mhm.
they filled her conduit up with wire too. And she says, they don't own the conduit, I own the conduit, I don't know what the hell they think they're doing. And I said, well, call them up, tell them, take the damn thing out of there.
Yeah,
That doesn't work. I'll come down with a tractor, I'll pull it out of there. It's private property.
yeah.
They're just playing games every chance they get. I think
I wonder if they did that.
Eversource has apparently dropped the ball, not a big deal, because it's only been this week, but it's one of those things, if the chihuahua isn't nipping at their heels, they go
That's
to
right.
sleep.
Yep, so I'll call Leah again with the PUC and
What's the issue for the ledge? They gonna drill it? What are they gonna do?
I do not have.
Because they
those
could be waiting
details.
on equipment. It's the only thing I'm thinking is if they can bring in some.
So I was told that work would resume this week,
Okay,
so on the ledge. So whatever their plan is, the
Then
plan was to resume it.
time
this
to go
week.
whack them.
Yeah.
So the ledge issues on the north side was
So all of this is on the north side of town.
So we drove down Colburn Road down near Maplewood,
Mhm.
and there were new looking poles down
Okay.
there
Oh,
as
okay.
well. I didn't see earth disturbed around it, but the poles definitely looked new.
Okay,
They were taller, the old poles were still there, and there
okay,
was like a yellow, is that what you're seeing over by your house
That's
too?
traditional, they put a new pole next to the old one.
Yeah,
And then the poles are all set by contractors, it's not the power company. that's
I
doing
see.
it. And then they set a pole, and then the electric company comes and moves the wires over,
Yeah,
and then somebody comes back and takes the old pole away.
yeah. So there were 3 or 4 new poles
Okay.
on Colburn. They were not on Maplewood, but they were on Colburn. It's close to
Okay.
Maplewood.
and it's not my impression that all of the poles have to be replaced.
Yeah.
It was just some of them that,
Mhm.
you know, the shorter ones that had sunk down enough or whatever.
Yep, Yeah.
Okay, well, I will continue to check in.
that's great. On the news on the way home, they were talking about, the state just awarded UNH $1 million to do a thorough broadband mapping in the state
Oh,
to identify areas that are unserved.
Mhm.
Because I don't know, if we remember, it was a few years ago, the maps they're not adequate. And there's still a lot of holes, so, too late for us, but, it'd be
Congress is
interesting.
also pushing on the FCC, the last I knew about their granularity, because their granularity was bad. If one guy in like a county size area had it, then
Right.
the county had broadband. Right?
Yeah.
Which was great. Somebody just like jump across the border, plug one in, and then
Right, that's what
disable funding from the whole
it's
county.
essentially what they said, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so
that,
they're trying to get more granular. Congress was knocking on them at one point a few months ago to get more granularity in the maps. They could get a better.
So funding UNH.
yeah, it's UNH, probably the UNH cooperative extension would be my guess, but, yeah. I didn't read the article, I just heard it on the news on NPR, so. Yeah, so that was interesting. Anything, I know there was a broadband meeting out at SWRPC, but I didn't attend or see any minutes.
Mhm.
How about on the Charrette update? We can move on to the next topic. I brought the complete streets idea to the select board and just gave them the information. It's not anything that will happen super fast. I also reached out to Henry Underwood at SWRPC because they administer the program for our region. And he's happy to come and talk about it if and when we're ever ready to do that. But he basically said there's different levels, like some towns just adopt a statement, the select board just, proclaims we will consider all users of our roads in our decision-making and planning. That's on the low end or the light end, I guess I should say. And there's also some towns that, go a little further and just adopt a few things, maybe in a certain area. And then there's, the more thorough or more extreme version where they, have a process or a procedure that project has to go through to see if they're meeting the goals.
What was that gentleman's name?
Henry Underwood at SWRPC. Yep. So there's no cost involved to the town to participate. It's just, but it does allow us to apply for grants. It could be a small grant, like, putting in a trail. It could be bigger. I don't think the parking lot, it would do it, but some traffic calming measures. It could just be putting up a speed sign and, one of those that tells you how fast you're going. So it could be helpful, especially if the select board or the town decides to do anything more in the village center that came out of the Charrette recommendations.
The Charrette, I think, people want to see some type of crossing.
Yeah.
Which is protected with either lights for night times, speed, things to sort of.
Right.
Get people to slow down to the 30 mile an hour it's supposed to be.
Right.
I mean, because it was 40 miles an hour.
And then 30. Yeah.
But they're still doing 45,
Yep.
50 anyway.
Yep. Yep.
Frustrating. So.
You can't fall to the side. You come around the board, the curve there. and it-
Right.
No,
It's going at you at 30.
Yeah.
So just people during the day that.
Yeah. So one I think the big point was I think we would like to see a better way of trying to control the speed. Or
Right.
at least show an area where people can cross and notify there's a cross.
Or so people know that there might be pedestrians. Yeah.
Any thought of, I was gonna say, any thought of kicking in cash to have a cop sit out there a couple of nights and.
Don't even go down that path.
That would certainly adjust some attitudes.
Had a cop on TV at
Yeah, we don't have any, yeah.
Well, I know that. but
There's
I'm
nobody.
saying,
Yeah, they're not around in town at night.
So I've heard in the past, I forget the word, but there was an issue, there was traffic, almost strips.
Yeah.
It was very effective.
Yeah,
Just wakes them up. Oh.
Yeah.
boy.
Well, and
They're cruising,
Well, and I thought the idea with like the granite cobblestones, either as a median or on the sides, like it kind of does the same thing. If you like are, staying in your lane and the lane is narrow, looks like you get that kind of
Right, yeah, I thought the narrowing the road idea,
Right.
which makes it clear you're coming into a village there may be people walking and, thought that was a good idea too.
All good stuff.
If we
Yeah,
could get
so
a
we'll
grant
see.
To cover cobblestone, that'd be great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think it could be a good thing to do with minimal, impact.
I think it would be state money as well. It's a state road.
It's a state road. Yeah, yeah. So if we decided to do that, or if, they put it out to the community that they want to sign up for this, we'd want to get the road agent involved and probably police, fire, just to make sure that we're.
Town of Dublin was very effective in getting the
Yep,
speed trip down in the village there.
yeah,
And for a couple of those roundabouts,
yeah,
probably police station, so the cop just sits there.
right, right.
Big rocks in the middle.
Yeah, I don't think that would fly, but we could do something. There's also, I don't know if I have the date with me, but there is an SWRPC roundtable coming up on transportation, and it says quite clearly on there that 45 is one of the roads that's included in their study area. So I did sign up for that. It is a webinar, so it's Zoom. You can participate from home, and I'll try to remember to send out the information for that, but it's just on their website under their transportation. And it's open to the public. Anybody can join in and provide input. 101, of course, is part of that too, but I was surprised to see 45 on the list of roads. So. Okay, so that's on the complete streets, and I gave you some housing stuff here. It's, I went to 3 sessions over the last 2 days that focused on housing, and we're expecting the regional housing needs assessment to come out. The state report is supposed to be out by the end of this year, and then the regional one by March of 2023, so not too long off. And that should give us some good data on what we have and what we need. And, it's updated based on the census, and
Are they gonna do need or just inventory?
both.
They are gonna do both.
Yep, they have population projections that they're including, and some rental data, and talking to different agencies. So it looks to be pretty comprehensive. I don't know how Temple specific it will be, because we're sort of lumped into either Hillsborough County generally, which includes Manchester and Nashua, which, is very different. Or we're lumped in with Cheshire County, because that's our Regional Planning Commission region. So we're sort of, we have to sort of.
So
Yes.
the projections are gonna be on a bigger scope. They're not gonna be,
Initially, yes.
they're not gonna be very granular.
Initially, the first version will come out, which is for the whole state.
Yeah.
And then the next will be the regional.
So it'll be Southwest regional.
Yes.
Okay.
And I did ask about town specific, and they said they would try to provide that as well. We did apply for a grant, the planning board, to do a town specific information, and this is related to updating the master plan. So part of that is the population and housing chapter, which takes into account the new census data and American Community Survey data, current housing trends. They look at sales, they don't look at rental data in Temple, because they can't capture
How could
it.
they get-
Unless they're knocking on everybody's door, that's not going to be super accurate from that point. But so this grant would allow them to come in and help us with gathering data, and they'll look at land use, and they'll work with the community to find out what we want and what our goals are. And so that could be really helpful in directing things going forward. Then the natural resources inventory is getting done separately, but that's also part of the master plan. So we will get data, but
We'll get some data. How useful it is
yeah,
TBD.
yeah.
Okay.
So housing, as I said, they had one session I went to was really good, actually. It was Sarah Reitzman who came for the Charrette, and Tiffany was one of the other presenters. And then Molly Donovan, who is out of the UNH Cooperative Extension, and she does community engagement. That's her whole thing. So one suggestion she had, and there's a whole bunch of stuff in there, was scheduling one-on-one conversations with people, that not everyone is comfortable public speaking. Not everyone can come to a meeting at night or even during the day, that you could just set up times for people to come in and talk to one or two people, and or via Zoom, that there's options to do that, that the goal should really be to make sure we engage as many people as possible and get diverse opinions. So there were some good suggestions about that. And I think you thought of it already, going to a parent meeting. That was one other suggestion that I thought was good. And they actually funded an ice cream truck in one community to drive around to the different neighborhoods and have a block party, and just be like, hey, while you're here, can I ask you, what are your thoughts? And, and you could have like for the school survey that they did, a set of questions to start with to get the conversation going. And then just, if there's other things people want to talk about, we just do that, So I thought that was a good idea. So something for
I'll be
us.
asking you, I'll send this off to you for you to have names.
Sure, of course. So I know you haven't met with Bruce or talked to him. Yeah.
I haven't. I guess one question is just timing, because I think where we had left the Charrette stuff is they would give us the full report.
Yep.
And then we would have follow-up conversations. So is the
Right.
housing forum waiting until?
I think that was what we.
In the planning board, that's what was suggesting, is the housing forum is delayed until after we've got more details on the charrette. Because that would influence that conversation afterwards.
Mhm.
And also the holidays.
Yeah.
We're not going to have a captive audience over the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, okay.
Bruce is
Okay.
on board with that as well.
Okay.
And the
I don't
reason-
know if Bruce looked over anything that I did or I can check in with him.
I don't remember what he said the other night about that. But there's, like I said, there's more reports coming out, and I did the Eastern Monadnock Housing Coalition meeting also on Tuesday. And I don't know if I have my notes on that, but essentially all the shelters are full. They're working with churches to come up with emergency housing. There are people that are living outside right now who will need to move indoors somewhere for the winter. The emergency rental assistance funding is running out at the end of the year, although I heard on the radio, they just got a little bit more, but that's not going to last for very long. So they're already working with families in preparation for the funding to expire, try to find them housing. And that funding also included money for hotel stays as a temporary solution, because there wasn't anything else available. So, it's not good. And by the way, 7 families that they're working with are from Temple. So it's not like it's a problem outside of our community. It's here.
It's pretty much a problem in every community.
It is, yeah, it is all around the country. One thing they said today, though, is New Hampshire is a really desirable location for people that are leaving climate change, areas that are being affected by climate change. They're being priced out of Massachusetts, COVID, people that moved because of COVID, but a lot of it is people moving around within the state of New Hampshire. So, yeah, so there were some interesting trends, and the report I didn't have time to print it out, but there was a good presentation on what they're seeing around the state on prices. And I don't know if you all have heard, but the median house price in New Hampshire now is about $427. That's in the state. That's up like 12% over last year at this time. And that was up 12% over the year before. So it's, and
If it
it's,
keeps going, we'll see what happens to that.
inventory is down by a lot. Pretty significant. I don't remember the numbers. Rentals, there's less than 1% availability for rentals, which is driving the price up. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard out there.
And our tax rate just went up as well.
Sorry.
And our tax rate.
And our tax rate went up and utilities are up and yeah,
So it's things being hit by several.
a lot of factors. Yep, yeah. So all things to just sort of keep in mind. Does anybody else have anything they wanted to talk about in terms of housing or the charrette?
No, I think the issue we're going to have is the dichotomy of the way people look at housing in the area, because the people who don't have a concern about finances don't see it the same as people who look at people who have either they're getting older and they want to try and stay in the town but can't, or they've got youngsters who want to live locally and they can't. And I think it's seen with different sets of eyes, and how do you get past that and get the message across to everyone? That's going to be a real challenge.
Right.
That's the issue.
Business is business. You see, 3 acre lots.
Right.
The end is there. Seeing Ken and all the other guys are just scrambling.
Right.
You know?
And in the meantime, some businesses are not able to hire employees because they can't find a place to live. So there's a lot of factors and a lot of cause and effect to consider. They did talk about the economics of it, you know, that if you present that data, it just to show what happens if you only have expensive houses in your town, what the effects are in your region, and to, you know, keep in mind that just saying, well, they should move to a higher density town doesn't solve the problem for your town, either economically or.
They'll find their jobs in that higher density town too.
Yeah. Yeah, so lots more to come on that. I think, like I said, I didn't have time to print everything. The only other thing I wanted to say about the charrette is I asked the land use committee for feedback on the charrette, and the planning board, we talked. We
Spoke
didn't,
to them there, but
Yeah.
I think we were going to suggest who's responsible for sending out an email to the committees to ask.
right. Yeah. No, I think we should do it. Yeah. The other one I talked to was the Conservation Commission, but their agenda was tight, so they asked to postpone it to another meeting. So that will be the December meeting.
Yeah, because I think because the select board would ask the CAC to do the charrette, you're right. So if you
Yeah.
send out the email, it's asking.
Yeah, so the land use committee feedback. Actually, I have it with me. Some people felt there was a disconnect between what was said in the public sessions and the recommendations. Because there was so much talk the first day about the highway garage, and the presentation had more of a housing focus.
I think in the public session, because there's something that tables, one table might not discuss.
Right, and well, I said, well, I have all the printouts of the public input. You can see what people said.
But there was a public session where another table was discussed.
Yeah,
That's the only way.
and these are on the website now. The pictures are up there. So,
That's my concern, is that they're looking at it just from
Mhm.
their table.
The other feedback was people wanted more time to talk about stuff, that it was too short. There was some disbelief that the artist, Randy, I don't know, was able to do all those impressive drawings in one day. But I've seen him work and he does it in one day. He's just really good. So yeah, there was that. And yeah, I think just generally, I think people went into it with expectations that the highway garage thing was going to be settled. And they were disappointed because
People wanted the end of the conversation, not the start of the conversation.
Yeah, right. But that wasn't their job to decide that for us. And I thought they were pretty smart to not say,
To dodge that
because
bullet,
it became very clear that there wasn't a consensus. And so they were not gonna tell us what to do. That's not wouldn't have been appropriate.
That was never the point.
Right.
It's always just to make suggestions.
Right,
You just have to keep reinforcing.
yeah,
And it was more or less steer a follow-up conversation, right?
Right.
It really was to
Multiple
winnow
conversations.
down a bunch of stuff to get the start of a conversation.
Mhm.
So if you're expecting an end result, you don't get an end result before you get the start of the conversation.
Well, it wasn't even that they were expecting an end result, it was expecting the result that they wanted.
Well, that's always the case when somebody expects an end result.
And when they didn't get that, it was disappointing.
Yes.
So, Bill, did you come to the charrette?
Yeah.
And what were your thoughts? And you can be brutally honest.
There's a good faction of people in the town, and I'm not sure who they are exactly. Clearly want the garage down here at the across from the town building.
Mhm.
It's not impossible, I don't know, 45. Well, it has its downside, so is this one.
Mhm.
Put it out there and nobody's gonna argue.
What's the other site?
It's up near the state garage, just before. it leaves.
Oh, on 101. Yeah, it belongs to the state now.
No,
Yeah.
You're thinking about the little piece of town just.
I am, yeah.
There's another parcel, it's about 10 acres
I thought they traded some.
No, the trade didn't,
They traded.
no. A 10-acre town-owned
or so.
parcel?
Several acres anyway.
Because we looked at the whole list of town-owned properties, land use.
It was part of the discussion in the.
Huh,
Charrette.
on 101?
I remember saying it would be a much better place for it.
It's on 101.
Yeah, right off of on the side. Up in the vicinity of the state garage. I don't know exactly how close. Either that or I'm crazy.
I don't know of that lot, but I will certainly look.
Is it
I mean,
on 45?
Sorry.
Is it on 45 or it's on 101?
Off of 101. It's a few acres, just off of 101. We would have to build a driveway, do some blasting. I remember the conversation that requires some blasting to get through some ledge to get a driveway in. And, that's the downside of it.
What was that on the table discussions? Whether somebody.
I'm a shred, I'm pretty sure.
maybe.
I don't remember being on the trip.
That's some of the recommendations, but not all of them.
Well, there's a certain faction that wants it down here.
Right, and part of the reason for that is that it's more centrally located, so like our town is like, if you think of it as a wheel, they want to be as close to the middle as possible so that they're not driving more than they need to get from one end to the other. Old Spadini.
If it was in the charrette, it should show up again when they give the in-depth
Right,
review, right?
right. I mean, I sent all the areas to them, so it wasn't one that I didn't suggest any land on 101 and for them to look at. Just the Spadini land, yeah, down General Miller.
There was a little piece of land that the town just gave the state
Yeah, right next to the garage,
How large is that?
about an acre, a little bit less. Yeah, so not enough for the highway garage. They said they needed about 2 acres. When, when you factor in the materials and turnarounds and things like that. So were you there for the second day also? The
No,
presentation?
we did it remotely, we did it
Oh,
online.
right, that's right. Okay. Did you see the presentation online, the recommendations?
Yeah.
And what were your thoughts on what you saw?
Mhm.
Anything that looked good or, I mean, I know there are some things that we all reacted like, ooh, that's probably not what we want, but what?
I thought the thing about the road stuff, out here closing one road, and making parking, I thought it was creative.
Yeah.
Don't really have an opinion, it's
Mhm.
like, well, that was thoughtful, and
Yeah,
look at that. The idea of closing this road was like, wow.
yeah,
I thought my reaction was, this is gonna be a political problem, but physically it might work out,
mm-hmm,
you know?
mm-hmm, okay,
But moving this thing out of here has, become a political thing, which is unfortunate.
yeah,
Because there's a faction that's pushing real hard in one direction, and they're like 3-year-olds, they want their way,
mm-hmm,
and that's
yeah,
unfortunate, but the idea of moving that thing out of there has some good points. That's land that could be used for lots of things the town needs.
mm-hmm, right,
We heard mixed messages as well about that first part of the building.
Yeah.
Is it being condemned? Isn't it being condemned? How much is it going to cost to repair? Are they going to bother to repair? Are they
Yeah.
going to take it down and just put out right there? There's all sorts of strange conversations, but with no facts behind them.
right,
And that's what was disappointing, is we didn't know
Right.
some of the things that's in the background financially.
right. The land use committee talked about that too, and so they're gonna put together some fact sheets. Yeah, that's one of the things that came out of that as well.
I had another thought, which is speed thing here.
Mhm,
There's a number of ways to do that. Rumble strips is one.
mhm.
Another one is Cal State Police, and put a guy out here for a couple
Yeah,
hours. at different
yes.
hours,
Yeah,
Different times in the evenings or
Mhm.
whatever the problem exists, nothing like get stopped by state that just makes you remember,
yeah,
they really don't care what you do, they're gonna win.
yeah.
I mean, you brought up Dublin, that's how Dublin did it, anybody that went through town in Dublin, there was a cop sitting there, and you know,
Yeah,
you were,
Help at the police station.
you were reminded.
yeah, you see
that
the
was a bad
car parked
plan.
there. Yeah, right,
Yeah, it'll come to a head, somebody gets run over out there, and all of a sudden it'll be a crisis, the town will have resources to launch.
mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate that might happen before we do something decisive, but I think we should.
Tim actually said somebody was hit out here years ago, and do you remember that? Were you living in town when that happened?
Probably, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he said it was the pastor from the church.
That could be. He lives over there.
Yeah, I mean, this was a long time ago, maybe 30, 40 years ago, that it had happened. And then he said there was another incident here with one of the trucks drove into or over a car that was parked here. That was inconveniently parked. So there have been incidents here, and it's been a while.
Yeah, but it's a winter, so.
It was winter,
Wouldn't know.
Well, the
Right.
council, I mean, what we can do is to do something before.
right?
We don't
Something,
wait
yeah.
till something like that.
Yeah, the person that got hit was okay. I think bruised, but not badly injured, but still.
I guess my thought is take decisive action now before somebody gets hit.
Yeah, right.
After they get hit, you gotta be horrible.
And is
And
it,
then the town's gonna spend the money to do whatever they gotta do.
Say that then the town has liability,
right,
but somebody's gonna catch it on.
Yeah, that's
Or
unfortunate.
have all kinds of legal fees.
Yeah, what if it's a 9-year-old kid? It's just not right.
right. So Bill, do you talk to many people in town? Do you have a sense from other people how they reacted to any of the recommendations? I'm sorry to pick on you, but I appreciate you being here.
I don't talk to a lot of people that really hell out of town. I don't really catch
Okay.
it. I don't really know.
Well, thanks for coming out for us. Yeah, it is, it really is.
One thing that I kept reflecting on too is just, the passion of those that hold on to that nucleus or whatever reason for hanging on to
An idea or
the
something.
idea,
Yeah.
and how many years ago was it that when you hear the names of some of these roads, we have Memorial Drive.
Mhm.
So did anybody know that Memorial Drive is right in front of the church? Isn't it? Is that Memorial? No.
That's Firehouse Lane.
No, Firehouse Lane is the one that goes by the
Oh,
church.
Right. This
No,
is Main Street. Yeah.
Main Street. So, when I first heard that, I was like, "Really? That's Main Street?" There's also a couple of other roads anyway.
Memorial Highway is my favorite.
Memorial Highway, yeah, the highway.
The ball field down across, run through the trees.
Right.
It's sort of a lane and a half wide. and-
Right. But
Right.
anyway, the one part that the one place that I remember having been moved by, I didn't move here at the time. Although I was, for a short time, and maybe it must have been before that. Anyway, the firehouse, that's why it's called Firehouse Lane.
Mm.
Was there any repercussions? What did it take for our town to decide to move our firehouse from the bottom of the triangle to where it is now? And I think, it's hard to look back on these things and reflect and say, none of these changes are easy.
Mhm.
And, we're gonna go through these angsts and ups and downs. I'm not saying that it makes it, just don't reflect on that, it makes it any easier. But I'm curious, I am like that, I go down those rabbit holes in this history.
Mhm.
And I'm just really curious, like I was ready to go into town reports and find out how many times it came up on a warrant article, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have reports of my grandfather who had gone after having some sort of sign or something on Hill Road and had a lot of opposition, but it's one of those things, we're going to run into that,
Mhm.
and nothing is easy. And I reflect for sure about that firehouse and just wonder, how'd that go?
Yeah. And I pulled out some old pictures the Charrette team asked to see historical photos of the downtown. Main Street was a walking path at one point.
Yeah.
It was not a road. It was only for pedestrians.
This Charrette team, they don't know any different. They come in from the outside. They have that objective point of view.
Yeah.
So, when they come up with a parking plan that includes spots down at the beginning, the tip of the triangle, it's like,
Yeah.
well, there used to be a firehouse.
Yeah.
Okay. No, we don't. But anyway, just
Right.
thought I'd mention that.
Okay, so just to close the loop on this, I could take the letter that Lillian drafted and tweak it for boards and committees and send it out, but it's nice to go to the meetings in person. So I don't know if I send out dates,
Yeah.
would people wanna sign up and go to some other committee meetings? And
I think I'll go to the rec meeting.
Thank you.
I can do that.
Thank you, that'd be great.
And I think you probably can find a volunteer for the planning board meeting.
Yeah, yep, I think we're covered for planning board. Concom is one that I believe it'll be on their next agenda. Okay. I don't know if I have the date, I think it's December 14th or something like that. Yeah, I think it's the 14th.
Yeah, our rec committee meeting is November 29th.
So
Yeah.
you're gonna send So you're gonna send out effectively the reviewing letter
Yep,
to them, and then we'll go and actually.
yep, and I'll say,
We'll answer any questions.
we're happy to come to a meeting. Yeah,
I mean, if anybody wants to come and support me, I'd be happy.
I won't be in town on the 29th, I don't think.
Uh,
well, we'll look at the dates and see, you know,
Our last meeting, we had a couple of visitors, that was fun.
Now, are we asking them for feedback back on how to go forward?
whatever they want to talk about. Yeah, I think what they thought of it, and if there was anything that they felt like they wanted us to pursue with the town, with residents, to get input on. And I mean, you could share what we talked about at our last meeting about just having some more forums and conversations with residents. What did they wish they knew beforehand? You know, that we can, whatever information we can get out. Whatever they want to tell us. Do you want to talk about this school? That's the next thing on the agenda.
Sure.
It's a meeting last week, right?
There was, I'm wondering if anyone was able to go. I was out of town.
I listened in. Is that the one you're talking
The
about?
Thursday
The
school board?
Thursday?
Mhm. What did they talk about? How was it?
No, I wasn't there for the whole thing. There were some questions that they had, and I wasn't familiar with the couple of people that got up and spoke as far as who they were,
Mhm.
but they would take a question that would come in on email or on one of the chats and address that. I was kind of, I'm sorry to say, a little bit selfishly focused on whether there was going to be any specific focus on Temple.
Mhm.
And that didn't happen at the time, but in general it did. I was also a little bit surprised that there seemed to be more of a air about still working on what's the best plan moving forward kind of thing when it does come to whether it's a discussion about consolidation or curriculum or so I don't know that I got a good sense of real direction.
Mhm.
And I don't, that's only my opinion or my takeaway from it. And I wasn't there for the whole thing. I was glad that I was able to see as much as I did.
Do you know if they recorded it? Is it something that we
I
can?
don't know.
I don't know if it was recorded. It was nice to be able to tap in at the time.
Mhm. They did record
I
it?
would bet they did, I don't know.
Hmm,
Big enough of a group. Sure they
And
record
I would
everything.
we
hope-
can check.
Do you have any other feedback from that?
No, I mean, I've been out of town and I am sick, so yeah, I don't, yeah, I haven't heard anything. The senior Thanksgiving was today.
Oh,
and it
right.
was very well. People were really excited to have that back in person, and it was also a lot of work because there's so few families at this, you know, just to get it all done. But I think there was plenty of food. I think everyone had a great time. And yeah, so, and I haven't heard anything. I don't know if you had a chance to look into old documents or, yeah, because I don't even know where to start.
Well, originally, Kim was gonna go take a pass, and I haven't heard back.
I haven't either. I'll check in with him.
Okay.
I did check in with Brandy about, does she want to stay on the committee? She's interested in being involved in the school conversations.
Okay,
There is no way she can ever make this meeting.
okay,
And she said if it's, you know, I just talked to her about the quorum and she said, listen, I don't care. She said, do whatever's best. So
okay,
if we want her to rotate off at her term, that's fine. If she needs to do it early, she's fine with that. She'll find a way to be at school-related meetings, but.
Okay.
that's-
Could she
That's it.
volunteer to send an email to us on any updates she hears about for when we do have the meetings, then we can actually read them. and include them.
Anything related to the school, you mean?
Anything related to school.
I don't know, well, I could ask her.
You'd ask to, so that way the, give you a bit more time as well. because
And are there any other considerations of somebody who could possibly interact a little bit more without, everybody's got so much on their plate, so. I just didn't know about anybody else that's maybe on what's it called?
Was Elizabeth-
Whatever the parent organization is.
Is Liz one still?
She's our school board
She's
rep.
a school board rep.
Oh, I think she's careful about.
She can't, it's
Yeah, she
conflict of
can't.
interest, yeah.
There's Colleen. Is she on?
Yeah, I mean, and Colleen's an employee at the school now,
Oh, okay.
which,
That's
You
another
know,
conflict
Could
of
be
interest.
problematic, yeah.
so, yeah, I mean, out of the involved parents, there's a number of them that are employed. So it's really quite limited.
I didn't mean to
Okay.
put it on you on the spot with it. I was
Yeah,
just-
We'll just give some thought, because if we could get feedback from somebody who is involved.
yeah, I think Gretchen is, willing. I think she has her finger on the pulse of
Mhm.
things, and I think the question is still like, what is it that we're doing? Like,
Mhm.
I think we did a lot of research into looking at other district or other towns that have formed their own SAU. And, based on that research, I don't think it's something that Temple would want to pursue. I mean, we could always like bring that out to a larger discussion, but the two options are really to withdraw from Conval or to like stay in the Conval system. And then it's, I guess for me, it's not just about keeping the elementary school open. It's about making sure that the kids in Temple are educated well. And that, that's bigger than just K-4. And, I think there's a lot of families in town that are not part of the Conval system. And so I guess I really don't know where to go with the committee is
Mhm.
where I'm struggling. I think everything I've seen from the Conval strategic plans, they are not calling out any particular towns, and I think that that's part of their strategy is, to look at things more broadly. And yeah, I just, I feel like, yeah, if anyone has ideas of where to go or what to do.
Well, I mean, we talked at one point about a survey out to the community. We talked just when we first came in about one-on-one conversations, maybe going to a parent meeting at the school or getting the parents together for coffee or whatever and just feeling them out. And then, I mean, it does have to go to the broader community as well. And part of the master plan update, it will include looking at the vision statement. In our current vision statement, it says we want to retain the elementary school.
So it looks like somebody's looking to get that.
I think it's just the devices.
Yeah. Deny. It's not letting you deny, huh? Don't you have to use the keyboard?
No, it's in the background.
Okay.
Huh,
That was strange.
that is strange. Okay. So we can ask that question when we're doing the master plan update. Do people still want to retain the elementary school? And I think we ask it with students versus the building, right? Because
Right.
we may not have a choice
Mhm.
if Conval decides to pull the students
Right.
out do we want to keep the building for the community?
Mhm.
And I attended the CDFA, which is the Community Development Finance Authority session this afternoon, and there was a guy in the session that said, our elementary school is closing, the town wants to keep the building for these community purposes, would you give us a grant or a loan or some combination? And they said, absolutely, we would want to talk to you about that.
Great.
So, you know, we're not at that stage, but it's good to know that there's the potential.
Did Ken Case ever come back with the buy option that he mentioned?
No.
No,
No,
no.
yeah, I'm gonna follow up with him.
Where he mentioned that he thought there was something in a deed somewhere or something.
Yeah, yeah, remember that. No, I haven't heard anything. So, you know, I think we just have to keep checking in. I guess that's my thought, right? Anybody else have any thoughts on direction around the school conversation?
No, the bottom line is, do you want to stay? And if you want to go, have you looked at where you can go, right?
Yeah,
And these are all points we brought up before. I think Jess has done a lot of the homework for all of
Right.
us.
right.
So,
Now it's a matter of finding out, well, number one, what is Conval
right,
gonna do? And then just be prepared to go to the community and ask what they want to do.
right.
Also, I think the town has got a misconception in taxes as well.
Yeah, that's part of the, yeah.
Nothing's gonna change much on your taxes, whether it's here. or
If we
not.
stay with Conval, yeah,
And I think I crunched those numbers.
you did.
Yeah, but I think it's
Something like $2.50 per household per month or something you save on your taxes, possibly, maybe.
There's that misconception in town, I think, a lot of people thinking that their taxes are suddenly drop.
Yeah, no.
If we don't have the school, and that's not the case. Yeah, right.
They'll drop something like $30 a year.
Now, if Conval does a bigger consolidation to where all but say 2 of the elementary schools are closed, then it would start to make
Yeah.
more of an effect. But if it's just like one elementary school, it's pennies.
I don't see that happening. They're gonna start consolidating. I can't see them going at one at a time. There'd be so much strife just
Yeah.
with the one.
I think they're gonna do
If they're gonna
everything.
do it, they're gonna do it all.
Yeah,
Yeah, and there's 3 towns that are sort of at risk.
yeah, I mean, the plan that I saw, and I was here and paying attention, and I went back and read old newspaper articles. And the plan that they were really pushing, I think in like 2018, was to have only Peterborough and Antrim Elementary School and close everything
Right,
else.
I remember that.
So I don't know if that, they just keep talking about consolidation, even though the feedback from the survey was overwhelming that people are against consolidation, but open to restructuring. They won't change their language, so I'm like, what?
Mhm.
There's clearly an agenda. They know what they want. They're just gonna keep pushing forward. They're doing some surveys. I have not seen evidence that they're really, I think they're reporting on the surveys, but I don't think they're,
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not-
Slow.
yeah.
If they did it all at once, it'd be gone again. Everybody, so be surprised at it, shut it down,
And-
especially if they're not gonna save a lot of money on taxes.
And they may have other things that they're focusing on right now in terms of the school, mental health of the teenagers at the high school has been a big issue. They have police now.
And it's surprising Antrim has had the opposite, because Antrim
Yeah.
has been congratulated on the way.
I remember when I had kids that age, I told my son, you get in trouble with that, you don't worry about police, you don't worry about. It was trained by the law. It must be trained.
Yeah.
You could be made to show leave food by the bar
Yeah.
every night, till 11 o'clock.
Maybe they should adopt that strategy at the high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in any case, they may have other,
I think it's back in May, when I went to that strategic planning meeting, there were 5 big topics of conversation, and consolidation was one of the 5. So,
Right,
um,
so there's other,
I mean, yeah, there are definitely other things that they're looking at, and I think all 5 of these are, you know, their top priorities.
right,
If you get further along, and you would like me to, I can revise that spreadsheet I sent you to determine the hit on temple taxes by school, by town.
Mhm.
So that if, Hancock goes away or whatever it is, then, we save, 6 cents or whatever it is, right? And we can work all that out on any granular. Literally go through and draw lines in the chart to which ones they're talking about or not talking about and figure out the overall text. Not just TES, but
Francistown and Dublin, I think were the latest two, right?
yeah.
And, yeah, could be all of them, like you said,
So,
but,
but I can literally do it. I'll give you a decent spreadsheet and you can
Okay.
take out the lines you don't want, depending upon what the decisions that are on the board are. Generate numbers whenever you want.
Okay.
But let me know if you want it or when you want it, and I'll turn the crank and get it done.
Okay, great,
All right.
thank you.
Not to elongate this so much longer, but has there been any feedback about the charter school? Like, are people pleased?
I think so. I mean, I haven't really, of the parents who left TES and went there, I haven't heard anyone saying that they're wanting to come back.
yeah, I haven't heard anything.
Because, I mean, that's another factor, is that they're intending to grow, which would mean more students
Right,
being told.
yeah. There's a lot of really
So
great
there's a lot of
options.
moving parts.
Mhm.
You have to know what the tuition is.
At the charter school, it's free.
It's public,
It's a,
it's a lottery, it was a lottery, right, to get in? But it's publicly funded.
Lottery, like, then what? Draw a number?
Yeah,
draw number.
Okay.
But I think like if you had siblings, like, and one got in, all of them, so there was,
More by family than by
Yeah.
student.
yeah.
It is, I mean, busing.
Busing's-
Condo, special ed services happens for the same schools.
So they could probably participate in athletics
Mhm.
at Conval as well.
I just kind of wonder, what an impact that had on yet another thing on the plate that really,
yeah, I
not
mean,
that it takes the focus away, but it just kind of makes it higher and higher and deeper and deeper.
I think rough estimate, a quarter of the students last year went there.
Yeah,
Like, that's significant.
Right.
And how did that affect other towns?
Yeah, and that's right, it's affecting all
But,
towns.
and that's only up through what grade?
Right now it's 5th, and they'll add a grade every year.
What building do they use?
It's,
Where SDE used to be,
What is it?
where SDE used to be down by Charlie's Ice Cream and Highway.
I know where Charlie's Ice Cream is.
Yeah, it's right that SDE.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Right.
right behind it.
yeah,
Oh. Okay, we should start another charter school, put it down.
We had that
Right,
conversation,
that-
like
there.
That's come up.
we've looked at multiple different things, yeah.
Yeah, I think a charter high school, because there are not a lot of great high school options, other than Conval.
Right. Nashua, I think, is the only one, the closest one,
Charter.
yeah.
Mhm.
Dublin's, I don't know how good that is. but it's
High tuition.
I heard it's expensive, but well above average, but
Yeah.
that was a while back. I don't know.
Yeah. Anything else on the school is sort of a keep it on the agenda kind of thing going forward?
Sure.
There was some school data in that housing report that I'll share, but it was only public school. It didn't account for private schools or, I mean, it was, enrollment data. That was it from it. Or homeschoolers
Mhm.
were not included either. So new business, what I have is the budget is the first thing. I went to the BAC meeting and they're gonna create a category for us in the budget under other general government, just along with the town forester. There's a historic district commission, which gets no money, the TEAC, which doesn't get money because it goes to renewable energy task force now.
Money for surveys.
So I asked for $400 for a mailer,
Only
because
one.
we've been doing one every year. Only one. I mean, I think if we're gonna do something housing, it could also come out of planning board.
Okay. Because I
So,
was gonna say, given the charrette and the feedback from the charrette,
yeah,
staying out of here, if we're driving that, you might have 2, 3, 4 meetings.
yeah, and I think like, if they're gonna do something with trails, that would come out of Concom. I mean, I think we're just kind of how can we support the other
Yeah.
committees?
And I'm okay with that, but I guess what I'm saying is, since the charrette came out of here,
Yeah,
if we're gonna drive that process, have we accounted for how many mailers?
well, what we talked about, I
You're
think,
thinking some come out of planning and some come out of.
yeah, they come out of
That's all fine.
whatever, if rec committee was gonna do something, or, if they're gonna do something with the road or parking, that's not us.
But I guess.
But we talked about doing one mailer in the beginning of the year with, here are the dates for you to participate in public conversations about each of these topics. And so that was the one we talked about at the last meeting.
But if that's spread out, is one mailing sufficient?
I mean, if we need to do another one, we could ask the select board
Okay,
and it could come out of their budget.
I'm just thinking we did one last year,
Yep,
right?
yep,
And we did one for broadband the year before.
right.
So I get why one makes sense.
Mhm.
But that said, we've had the charrette. And that could generate lots of conversations.
Mhm.
So I'm just making sure we all understand there may be a speed bump in the road. And if
Yeah.
we want to go with one mailing and then go to the select board if we need more money, that's
Yeah,
fine. But
yeah.
we ought to have a backup plan as well.
Did we already have money for that mailer?
It came out of select board.
So we never had a budget.
We never had our own line item. But because it's becoming a regular thing now, they said, well, let's, yeah, since it's, yeah.
I think Gail wanted to see where the money was going.
Well, I mean, I think it's transparency. I think
Yeah,
it's
I'm
not
good
a
with
bad
that,
thing.
you know,
It's,
No, I think it's a good idea, but
Yeah.
I think that's what happened, is they still, now there's a more established committee.
right,
Then there's going to be things that we do, so.
right.
The only other thing I'd bring up is we know the $400 you're talking about is going to get spent because of the charrette piece, right?
Yep.
And the budget is a year long. So do
Mm-hmm.
we want to make kind of contingency in there if they throw other stuff on our plate, which the select board has been known to
But
do?
then it can come out of theirs.
It'll come out of there. Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page as to how this is handled. That's all.
Yeah,
I don't,
I don't anticipate anything else coming
Right.
specifically to us, but you're right. I mean, something could come up.
every year, something winds up landing on our plate.
Yeah, and
right?
I guess we're sort of, I feel like we're shifting into more of a supportive,
Okay,
how can we work with the other boards and committees to help them with whatever their projects
yeah,
are.
and I don't have a problem going back to get money if we need
Yeah,
it. But
yeah.
we all should
Right.
understand what we've allocated and what we haven't allocated, I guess is. the
Yeah.
issue.
Right, and then the other thing to remember is that when they do the master plan update, there's money in the budget for mailings and for
Right.
that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So we could sort of tap into that funding, and that's a grant, so it wouldn't come out of the budget.
Do we need anything for Harvest Festival? Like,
That's a good question.
just to have, because I think we've run into that.
Yeah,
Because there's poster boards and.
I
This is
have
the
an
whole point about
abundance of them now.
So,
I think I got a 12-pack by mistake.
yeah, I mean, that was the whole
I
thought about
have-
the year-long process.
I have the easels, now too. I did give the leftover, the big pads to the library, and I kept one set of markers. I gave the rest to the library.
And can we throw in like $100 in case we, just so we have a little buffer,
Yeah, sure.
do something?
Mm-hmm.
And when it does come to our initiatives, and being supportive for other committees and what they're needing to do, think about the value of what we've done as a committee, you know, look at what broadband came out of here and the Charrette itself, which is a
Right.
vision, really forward vision.
Verdict's out on that one, I think.
I think that, I mean, it's been generally positive feedback and,
Okay.
you know, they appreciated having the opportunity to come out and talk about stuff. You know, the town residents, that's all been good. And people, like I said, wanted more time.
But I don't think you're going to get negative feedback either. At least you begin to get an understanding
Yeah,
of that. So good or bad.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
it's-
worthwhile. I'm just
that's
saying,
what
I think
helps
the
us
public verdict was still.
figure out how to move forward too and engage the community.
Because I think they got so disappointed several years ago when something was presented at the town meeting about housing.
The planning board had presented some zoning changes,
And it was
yeah.
done, it wasn't done too well. And so I think they've seen the other side of it now. Okay, well, now we're asking for your opinion.
Yeah, right.
And so I think that, in a way, it might have been a bit of a shock, because all of a sudden. But the converse is, sometimes they think it's not too remote.
Yeah.
Right,
Does a committee have an opinion on housing? As Ken said, we don't build housing.
yeah,
But it's getting that message across that there's not a hidden agenda.
Our job really is to ensure the conversations exist.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And then what comes out of the conversation is what comes out of the conversation. I get that. But we've done well with broadband. I think we've done well with the charrette. And that's part of my comment about other things may get dropped on our plate, or again, Harvest Fest or whatever, from a budget perspective. But getting those conversations to exist, they're not always pleasant conversations, right? You know, the whole issue of moving the highway garage, as Bill pointed out, is somewhat of a political hot potato at the moment, right? And that's okay, right? I mean, that's the whole point of having the discussion, right?
Mhm.
And that's fine. And whatever comes out of that comes out of that. So I'm not against doing that. But at some point when you have those discussions and they do turn into hotbeds, you do wind up having to advertise more meetings than you'd originally anticipated. You have to potentially send out information to the public in general, because it is a conversation that is, we'll say, popular in the town, and so on and so forth. So that was the only reason why I brought this up from a budget standpoint and the other pieces.
As I understand it, the options, you always go to the select board.
Right, and
Yeah.
as long as we all understand that going in, because I believe this year, I mean, historically, we've done one mailing per year, right? And that's good. This year, how to put this, in each of the previous years, we didn't know we needed to do a mailing. It came up in the process of the year, right? And we're 2 for 2. So we put money in the budget because we know one is coming up, but it's unclear to me that there won't be an additional one or an additional one after that or whatever. So as long as we're all on the same page that says we understand that may occur, go to the select board.
Yeah,
That's fine.
yeah.
So
And I
Dana at some point next year is gonna say, I told you so.
No, I've already told you so, but no, it's just, that's just the way it is. And it's okay, because that's really part of our mandate is we don't know what we're gonna wind up being involved in, right?
Right.
I mean, that's just part and parcel of what this committee is for.
No, I
is-
think if a committee asks us to do something, we'd say, yes, it's cost you this.
Or we go to the select board and see if they're
Well,
willing
it's
to
a
spend the money
10%
on it. I mean, that's
markup.
Yeah,
fine.
right.
There's no harm in saying, well, we need to fund survey for that, we need to
Fund,
fund.
right,
Yeah.
mail, right?
Well-
I think they would be open to.
Yes, I think they would.
So-
And part of the, so we got a response back when we submitted the grant request to the planning board for doing the master plan update, and a regulatory review is the other piece of that.
Yep.
That's a different phase. But as part of the master plan update, they asked us to create an implementation chapter. So once we gather the data, what are we gonna do with it?
Right,
Like, other than put it on a shelf?
right.
And I feel like that's where we can come in. And I think I know that there's funding for putting that in place. And that's where I think we could tap into, but it will be managed by the planning board.
Right.
So they would come to us and say, will you help us with X, Y, or Z implementing this? And that's what happened with broadband. That was in the vision statement, as, connectivity for residents.
Christine, remind me, where is that grant? Like the planning board has voted on it?
We submitted the application, we
Okay,
voted on it, we
okay.
submitted the application, we got a response back. We did apply for 3 phases, and they said they would award us for the first 2 phases, but they wanted us to add an implementation chapter. And then they said that they'd like to see us come back to them after we get the results of our master plan, so that we have a clearer idea of what our goals would be
Got it.
for the 3rd phase. And the 3rd phase is basically to come up with recommendations to the town on what we might be able to do
I see.
as far as zoning regulations.
Got it. I know you said that earlier.
That's
Just
okay.
Putting all the pieces together.
Yeah, but they want to make sure that we're coming up with zoning regulations or changes that the community supports. That's, because otherwise it's
What's the
it's a
point?
waste of all of our
It's an
time.
academic exercise.
Yeah, we know there's things that are outdated that we're gonna need to update. But any significant changes will have to be approved. So they want to make sure that what we present is reflected in what the community has said that they want or don't want.
And so when it does come to this mailer that you're talking about, that's associated with.
Yeah, so the initial mailer that we're putting the budget in for is post Charrette. Yeah, these
They're
are,
going to come out with their.
they'll come out with the report. We'll say,
on
on this day, we're gonna talk about area 1, and this day we'll talk about area 2, and this day we'll talk about area 3, or more descriptive than that, but
spearhead the.
yeah,
The public discussions.
right, and getting input from the boards and committees. If Conservation Commission says, hey, I think that's a great idea to put trails in down there, they'll take it from there. That won't be.
And do these go then on the way to presenting or having warrant articles to be voted on?
They could. I don't see anything coming up in March out of the charrette.
That would be a lot.
Yeah, we'd have to have something ready by January.
I think the survey would be presented, the results of the survey would be presented at the town meeting in March.
Possibly.
Because that way then,
That might be
it's not
handy.
performed.
Yeah.
And at least then they're getting feedback for
Mhm.
on the survey.
Yeah.
Which will also include the input from the committees. So
Right.
that if there's any questions, they can then focus it to the appropriate committee that
Right.
actually push them.
Right.
Yes, so thank you. I just wanted to make sure my own thoughts were in line with.
Nothing out good enough, we couldn't get it done for that.
Yeah, I think that's a good goal. Sure. Was there anything else that?
Next CAC meeting date.
Okay, thanks for letting me know.
God, I thought that was you, Jess.
Yes. There is one other thing before we talk about the next meeting, and that is we have to write the, something for the annual report. So if anybody wants to volunteer to do that, feel free. I can draft something and send it out, and we can comment on it.
I'm happy to proof it, but I am not your customer facing it.
I am, yes, you said.
So,
I mean, I guess I always rely on you to do the broadband piece at least.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
Then
what
I
I can.
can, yeah, I can do
the audiovisual, yep, okay.
So if you start the draft and put the sections in, and I'll just fill out whatever section you want to do.
Okay, so then we have Harvest Festival. What else? I mean, I guess I'll go back and look at the minutes. The charrette obviously is a big one to put
You're
in.
right, James, do that one.
Yes, I'll do that. Yeah, so if you each send me your,
What about the septic project?
oh yeah, that too, yeah, can you write something up about that? That'd be great, thank you. Am I forgetting anything else? I didn't make a list
Well, it's
before
gonna
I
be a
came.
draft anyway, we'll think of things in the meantime.
Yeah, well, I guess my thought process was that we took December off. We did do that last year. Because we usually meet right the week before Christmas. But if we feel like we need to meet, we can. I'm just throwing that out there. Anybody?
The third Thursday is Eli's birthday, so I can't meet then.
Okay. That's the 15th.
The issue as to whether or not we meet in December might be driven by the fact that a lot has occurred and got to be written up. Do we need a meeting to officially go over it? Over the write-ups? Or the first draft, or are we just gonna circulate some stuff as work product behind the scenes to proof it, or? how do we
Yeah,
do it?
we can do that. We don't necessarily have to vote on it. I would just love some input. Typically,
Yeah.
the chair writes it and sends it in, but it's
I
a
guess-
collaborative process.
Let me rephrase my question. Under the right to know law, how much work product can we circulate before we
Yeah.
have to have a meeting?
Yeah, so
That's where I was
right,
going.
so typically I would send it out BCC, so I get feedback from you all individually. It's not a conversation over
Okay.
email. Yeah, which is allowed because it's a draft document.
Okay, well, I knew
And
there
once
was
we have a
rules for that.
finished product,
Yeah.
then it would go out, to the public.
If in doubt, BCC.
So,
And it would go out with our next meeting.
okay, so I guess that's what I'm trying to drive at, is when do you think you're gonna have the chapter pieces and pieces in place that you've done the BCC? So we need to meet to discuss the overall document,
I don't think
To
we'll have,
approve.
to approve it and so on and so
I
forth.
don't think
You
it
know,
needs to be approved.
It doesn't have to be approved.
Okay,
No, it's
so
just
we're
the
off
chair.
the hook. Okay,
Yeah, I'm just asking for your input and I would share it at the next meeting and that way it's included and out there for the public
Okay.
to see.
I'm just,
The deadline is usually December. But I know she doesn't get it done until a little later. So if in January when we meet, if we feel like we need to make changes, we can.
okay. That was the only,
Yeah.
making sure we dot all the appropriate i's and cross all the appropriate t's to keep it all.
Yeah, I'll probably submit a picture from the charrette as well.
Okay.
Although I think people have to approve their,
You can't use images, you can't use people's images.
I can if they give permission.
Yeah,
I submitted pictures before, so. I think that's it for my list.
So we're saying nothing in December, January, do we come up with something in January?
What's the third?
The 17th.
I have the 19th.
Third Thursday would be the 19th.
Oh,
Yep. Yep,
Also, we're all the way to the 19th.
yeah, and I'll just let you know, I'm away January 21st through February 4th, 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, nice.
Costa Rica.
Oh,
Good for you.
I've been there several times this month.
Yeah, I'm
My
excited.
daughter just came back.
Really?
Booked a resort on the coast. She said it was
That's
awesome.
where we're going on the Pacific coast. Tamarindo, Guanacaste, we're going to that region.
I think she was on the Pacific coast. I don't remember the name. of the
Yeah,
resort.
it's a big tourist area, so.
Yeah. So the 19th is what you want to.
19th. Unless, I mean, if something comes up between now and then, I'll let you know, or you can let me know if something. And then I'm hoping, I guess, in the next 2 months, we can all fan out to the different boards and committees and sort of regroup in January. So we'll do that over email. Just let me know which meetings you can go to.
I cheat, I'll go to the videos and skip the records.
Okay, I penciled the 19th in.
Did we get the book? This is a planning board. Did we get the books yet?
I haven't heard that they've come in yet. I think they'll go to Carol. And she'll let us know. We did order them. We've got budget to follow up on, and I need a draft report. And I need the, the letter to the board and committee members. Is there anything else I'm forgetting?
Yeah, motion to attend.
It is 8:30.
That's the snarkiest thing I've ever heard.
I know, right?
I like it, Keith.
There a motion to adjourn? Is that you motion? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Uh,
Aye. All right, meeting adjourned, and you can stop the recording and end the Zoom.
More importantly,